Yuval, welcome back to the channel. My name is David. Today, we're going to be talking about my second most favorite lens, which is the Nikon Z 50mm f1.2s. It's not plenty good. It's just sexy good, because I think that's what the S stands for. Anyways, jokes aside, I've had this lens for about 10 months now, so about the same length of time as my Z8. So I guess this is going to be kind of like a long-term review. And many of you are probably wondering why I'm using the 1.2, which is pretty big and heavy, over the smaller, lighter, and cheaper 50mm 1.8. While it is a lot lighter, I prefer having the 1.2 maximum aperture because, as most of you know, I shoot a lot of live music for a living, and I always find myself in very dimly lit situations. So having that maximum aperture of 1.2 really helps me keep my ISO low, shoot at faster shutter speeds, and let in a lot more light. As with all my reviews, we're going to be talking about build quality, autofocus, and image quality. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. However, I gotta do the disclaimer. I hate that I have to do this every time. Nikon did not sponsor this video in any shape, way, or form. I bought everything shown in this video with my hard-earned money, and my poor wallet is still in therapy. There, I said a disclaimer, so let's just start the review. The first thing you notice about this lens is how unnecessarily large it is, probably from all that glass inside. The lens does feel incredibly well made and durable. It uses a combination of metal and high quality plastics with a metal lens mount. The 50mm 1.2 is also fully weather sealed, so you can use it in harsh weather conditions without having to worry. At the base of the lens, there is a programmable control ring that will let you change settings like ISO, aperture, and so on. On the side of the lens, you'll find a autofocus manual focus toggle switch. Next to that is a custom function button, so you could hotkey certain settings at the press of a button. On the top of the barrel, you'll find a display panel that shows you relevant information on focus distance, aperture, and so on. At the front of the lens, you'll find a giant rubberized focus ring, which is very well dampened and easy to grasp. The front filter is an 82mm, and it comes with a large plastic lens hood, which makes the lens look even larger. Overall, this lens is very well made, but very heavy. Back in the days of the DSLR, f1.2 prime lenses were super slow to autofocus because of the limitations of the technology at the time. However, in 2024, that is no longer the case. I'm happy to say that the Nikon Z 50mm f1.2 delivers fantastic autofocus performance. It features a multi-focus system that utilizes two separate autofocus drive units to deliver fast, quiet, and accurate performance. The lens also features full-time manual focus override, so you can dial in your focus on the fly. Even wide open at f1.2, I can easily trust the lens to deliver fantastic autofocus results in both photo and video applications. Even if my subject is moving around the stage, the lens's autofocus does a fantastic job in keeping them in focus, especially when I pair it with my Nikon Z8. It is insane how good these fast aperture primes are nowadays. You see, back in the day, f1.2 primes would yield the best results when stopped down, as shooting them wide open would produce soft-looking images. That isn't necessarily the case anymore, and the Nikon Z 50mm f1.2s delivers crazy sharp images wide open. Images are full of life and have a clinical look to them, which is on trend with most modern-day lenses. Since I photograph a lot of live music, I almost always use this lens at f1.2, as most of the venues I work with are really dark. The 50mm utilizes Arneo and nanocrystal coatings that work in tandem to prevent ghosting, reflections, and flare. It makes use of three aspherical elements that reduce spherical aberrations and distortion, two extra low dispersion elements that greatly reduce color fringing and chromatic aberrations. Lastly, the rounded 9-blade diaphragm produces a pleasing looking bokeh that makes your subjects pop from the background. One thing with these pro level lenses, it's really hard to be nitpicky with them since they produce fantastic results. And that's all she wrote. So here are my two cons for using this lens after 10 months. Number one is the weight. Yes, I said that the 50mm 1.2 makes a lot of sense for me in my kit, and it does because I do shoot a lot in low light environments. However, that does not mean that this lens is not heavy. It is the heaviest lens in my bag, and it is significantly heavier than the 135mm, and it is also heavier than the Nikon 85 1.2S that they have for the Z mount, which is insane. There's just a lot of glass here. And for me, when I had the RF 50mm 1.2, I felt like that lens was the correct size for a 50mm 1.2. It was, you know, kind of a lot shorter, and it felt very balanced on the camera. With this 50mm, you almost always have to two-hand the lens, which is not a bad thing. But again, you know, we're getting older, man. Our back is starting to hurt. You know, my back's hurting just sitting like this because I'm trying to sit straight. And then I guess con number 2, and then leading into who this lens is for, is the price. $2,000 is a lot for a 50mm. If I was just starting as a beginner professional photographer, I would probably just buy a zoom lens and then call it a day. But if you're somebody that is a beginner, an enthusiast, or maybe you're just starting out as a professional working photographer or videographer, you know, you could probably go with the 50mm 1.8S, which is significantly cheaper than this 50mm 1.2. Or if you want to save even more money, you could get the Viltrox 50mm 1.8, which I believe comes in at $300, which is really good for a 50mm. Well, that's the end of the video. If you guys found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video for whatever reason, double tap the dislike button twice. Trust me, it works. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so you can stay up to date with all the latest videos that I am going to be posting on here. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Hasta luego.